On News Hour tonight, Senate reverses stance to allow e-transmission of election results, retains manual backup. Atiku visits IBB, seeks support for ADC. Family rejects bribe claims in Gombe poisoning case. Away from Nigeria, heavy gunfire reported near Central Prison in Guinea's capital. Hello, good evening and welcome to News Hour on Trust TV. I am Dorcas Yakubuzala. The Nigerian Senate on Tuesday passed the electronic transmission of results bill, bowing to mounting pressure and criticism over its earlier decision on the matter. The passage followed a motion raised on the point of order seeking to rescind and amend the earlier provision, changing the wording from transfer of results to transmission of results. The report.
The motion was moved by the Senate Chief Whip, Senator Tare Mongunu.
Of the Electoral Act, repeal and enactment bill as previously passed and recommit clause 60 subsection 3 to the Committee of the Whole for further reconsideration and passage. I so move.
The development triggered a rowdy session on the floor as some senators openly disagreed with the motion. Senator Iyinaya Baribe invoked Order 72, calling for individual voting on the motion, but later withdrew his request. Subsequently, Senator Diket Plang moved a motion that the earlier votes and proceedings be adopted and approved as amended. The motion was seconded by Senator Sereki Dixon.
Any senator may challenge the opinion of the president or the chairman by claiming a division. Mr. President, I claim a division.
In respect of,
we need to vote individually now. That motion.
After putting the question to a voice vote, the Senate President declared the motion passed, announcing that the membership of the Conference Committee had been expanded from 9 to 12, with Senator Simon Lalong named as chairman and others as members. The Senate President expressed optimism that if all issues are resolved, the President would assent to the bill before the end of the month.
Conference Committee, when you meet, you know that this is a matter of urgency. I believe that if you're able to conclude within the next few days or 1 week, the President should be able to sign this amended electoral bill into an act of Parliament within this month of February. So I wish you a worthy deliberation with your colleagues.
In a later development, the Senate President read the letter from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu seeking the confirmation of non-career ambassadors.
I am pleased to present for confirmation by the Senate the appointment of Usman Issa Dakingeri Suleiman as career ambassador.
The request was referred to the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, which is expected to report back within 1 week.
Now, former Rivers State Governor Rotimi Amechi has joined other protesters as demonstrations against the Senate's rejection of mandatory electronic transmission of election results continued in Abuja on Tuesday. The protest, which began on Monday, is opposed to the Senate's decision to reject real-time electronic transmission of election results. Amechi, who attended the protest with his son, a medical doctor, said he brought him along in case the demonstration turns violent and injuries are sustained. The former Minister of Transportation explained that he came with his son to demonstrate his belief that during major protests, leaders should be at the forefront with their families.
What's the advantage of transmission, electronic transmission? The advantage that very few persons will die on the election field. very few Nigerians. You are saving the lives of Nigerians. The current situation you have now is that every election, people are dying in their droves, in their large number. And because people are dying, they don't care. That day, Senator Babi will be in his mansion with police, with army protecting him, while people like us will be on the field. And they are rigging the election. But you know one funny thing? If you think they won't rig, you're wasting time. To stop them from rigging, we must come out in large numbers.
Yeah, what next? Citizens are going to reconvene and then they will see what it is that citizens want to do. Because for now, for me, I'm focused on the fact that they need to listen to the people and they must ensure that. So if they don't do what the people want, then the people will take the next course of action. And Nigerians have to wait to see what that next course of action is. But I think it is not, I also would say that we should not be giving rooms to the people that we elected. Or even the people we are paying their salaries, so be saying that whether they will do something or they will not do. It's just like when you have employees, you don't just sit down and allow them for them to be saying they are the ones to decide or not decide. We, the people, are the ones to tell them what it is to do. And if we all come here and shut down the National Assembly, they will do the right thing. So people should not just be sitting there and say, oh, they will not do it. It's not okay that they don't do it.
It has been agreed that during the public hearing, Nigerians said what they wanted was electronic transmission of results. And the idea of public hearing is that whatever the people say is what you carry back. Elected members are not there to do their own bidding. I'm a former member. I know that I'm speaking from a point of experience and authority, that people who are elected are there to do the bidding of the electorate. And the electorate are saying what we want is electronic transmission of the results.
You know, Nigerians have a lot of distrust in their leaders. They feel that we don't listen to them. And now that we've seen that they've been protesting here, we felt we should honor them by coming to listen to them and taking feedback. And also use the opportunity to educate, right, Nigerians about the parliamentary process. Where we are now is that the Senate today, I don't speak for the Senate, but I believe the Senate today is going to pass and approve their votes and proceedings so that we know what the provisions are. And these provisions will be laid before a joint committee of the House and the Senate to be able to harmonize. And we will act in the best interest of Nigerians.
Now joining us via Zoom to discuss the Senate amendment of the Electoral Act, it's Mukhtar Modibo, Secretary General of Follow the Money. Good evening and thank you for joining us on the News Hour.
And thank you for having me.
Why is the amendment not good enough for civil society organizations like yours?
All right. So first of all, I need us all to understand it's not about the civil society. It's about that the rejection of the mandatory electronic transmission. It's not just a technical issue, but it's a transparency issue. And when reform subject to discriminatory accountability becomes really optional. And if electoral transmission is good enough to be allowed, it is good enough to be a requirement. So it's not that this has not been in existence, but the electronic transmission has been under the guidelines of INEC. Now, what we're saying is it should be a requirement. Ahead of 2027, Nigeria needs a stronger institution that people will trust. So now it's not just about the civil society, it's about the issue of transparency, it's about the issue of accountability, and it's about the issue of trust and belief from the citizens of Nigeria. And that is why, you could see that a lot of civil society organizations and Nigerians in general, that is the civil people are saying, we need this to not just be on the guidelines of INEC, but to be a requirement that shall be made. Not a thing that is dangling between if transmission could not work, manual could work, so that it will be like there is that point of lack of interference, human interference, and transparency is in check. I think that is the major issue that Nigerians are talking about.
For some people, it makes sense to have a backup since technology can fail. Don't you think it's a logical approach?
So I don't think it's a logical approach. Over time, over time, we've been seeing the issue that has been affecting our elections has been lack of preparation, lack of political independency, lack of issues of logistics and what have you. And INEC as a commission has quite a number of resources within itself to take just 1 year to organize, 4 years to organize election. So I think it's something we can fix, right? Somewhere, some couple of months or years ago, INEC and NCC, that's the Nigerian Communication Commission, set up a committee led by an INEC commissioner, federal commissioner, and a director from NCC to come up with this level of improvement. And technology is something that we all want to see we're talking about. If you ask me what we should be talking about as citizens in the 21st century is maybe independent candidacy, electronic transmission as well as diaspora voting and what have you, not to talk about whether we want to inculcate technology into our election. Because if you look at IREF, Beavers, and other technological advancement that were integrated into our election has shown that technology is the game changer. Trust and belief is something we need to build, right? And trust and belief is something every citizen need to have. And citizens are saying this is what they need, right? For them to trust the system and believe in the system so that they can partake in the system. I think that should be given to the citizens.
Now, there appears to be a distinction between what the House of Reps passed and what the Senate bill contains. How do you see the harmonization process coalescing?
So now what we are watching, or what Nigerians are waiting to see, is that harmonization between the joint committee, between the House of the Reps and the Senate, and what they are going to do. As during the protest today, one of the members of the House of Reps said they are going to sit, the two joint committees will sit down, harmonize it, and pass the bill according to, or should I say, in the interest of Nigerians. And that's what we're seeing. What we're calling on both the House of the Senate and House of the Reps is, harmonization is what we need for us to see. Our interests need to be protected, because all of us cannot be in the system. That's why we send them to represent us. And if you're representing an individual, then you should represent that individual sentiment, individual interest where it matters. So we're still waiting on the harmonization between the joint committee and see whether or not they will pass it at the interest of Nigerians and interest of each and every one of us, to see that transmission has only gone. But we only talked about all the transmission. There are a lot of things that is subject to the amendment. And you should understand that our electoral reforms have not been a thing that just started now. We've started from 2001, 2002, 2003, 2010, 2022, and now 2025 and 2026. So we want to continue to improve. We don't want to go back from all the amendment that we've had. We want to continue to improve our systems so that citizens can continue to believe and trust the system and continue to partake in the system. For us to be able to achieve that point of government of the people, by the people, with the people, and through the people.
All right. Thank you very much, Mukhtar Modibo, for joining us tonight and for sharing your insights.
Thank you for having me.
Moving on, as political alignments begin to take shape ahead of the 2027 elections, signals from key power brokers are starting to define the conversation around zoning and national balance. Former Rivers State Governor Rotimi Amechi, speaking to a group of young politicians in Kano, says if a northern candidate emerges, the South must be persuaded to concede power, but adds that he will back whoever secures the party's ticket, North or South.
I will, but then I also advise ADC that they should look around and look for the best material that we can convince Nigerians that he will turn the things around. And critical. There are three factors to look for. First is capacity. Second is age, right? Third, which is the last point, respect the unwritten law of power that is now in the south too. They should conclude that and then transfer power to the north. You get the point? Because it makes it easier for those of us who are from the south to say, look, we are going to compete because the north has said, finish your listen. But if you then elect somebody from the north, I'm not saying we're not going to campaign, but it will be difficult to convince the south to give up power because they will ask the north, why is it that it's only when power comes to the south that there's a problem? You get the point. But again, whether it's a southerner or a northerner is immaterial, I will support whoever emerges at the primary.
Now, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar on Tuesday visited former military President General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida at his hilltop residence in Minna, the Niger State capital. Atiku arrived alongside Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, ADC chieftain Hassana Shawaibu Dada, and other party members landing at the Bola Ahmed Tinubu International Airport shortly before 1 in the afternoon. He held a closed-door meeting with the former military leader for more than 2 hours before departing Minna. Governor Makinde remained behind briefly and left later. Speaking with journalists, Atiku said the visit was aimed at mobilizing Nigerians to support and register with the African Democratic Congress while strengthening the party's structures nationwide.
What do you expect? APC generally is a party of forgers. So what do you expect? I mean, there is nothing new there. They forge everything. They forge certificates, they forge age limit, they forge everything. So that's the hallmark of APC. It's actually below the expectations of Nigerians. Nigerians who are expecting real-time electronic, transfer to the various levels of, the elections. But what we got is a mixture of electronic and manual transformation, which is going to cause more confusion and chaos. If we have a single tier, electoral.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has said President Bola Tinubu's intervention in the political crisis involving Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara would be the final time the president will step in to resolve the dispute. Wike stated this on Tuesday while speaking to journalists after inspecting ongoing infrastructure projects in the FCT, shortly after the president brokered a fresh peace move between him and Fubara at the presidential villa in Abuja on Sunday night. Addressing questions on the Rivers crisis, Wike said the president acted in his capacity as a father figure and peacemaker, but stressed that such intervention should not become a recurring issue.
Very kind to the people of the state. If there seems to be a problem between the legislature and the governor, and as a father, you really have to intervene. I remember this is the second time Mr. President intervened. I believe, by the grace of God, this will be the last time. I believe that the assembly have told them to do this, to make Mr. President, which I know they will not hesitate. And I also believe that the governor will carry out some part to make sure that this is the final time Rivers people will need to hear this kind of discord. So that's it.
Meanwhile, Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has reaffirmed his commitment to implementing the state's infrastructural vision. The governor made the remarks while inspecting ongoing projects across the state, emphasizing the administration's focus on development and progress.
From your own observation, not just mine alone, they've achieved a lot. And in the course of our discussion, they are still assuring us that by October this year, they will deliver the project. So, in my assessment, what they need is the fund, and from my own end is the push. I strongly believe that this promise that we made to our people will deliver it by October, God willing. For me, this project is very important, considering the person who conceived it, my Oga, Honorable Minister. He had a very big vision. He believed that if I achieve this project at record time, Rivers people will be happy with me. So I also, notwithstanding whatever is happening, it is also my wish and my struggle to ensure that that wish comes to be.
The interim national chairman of the Labour Party, Nenadi Usman, and her team on Tuesday officially took over the party's national secretariat in Abuja. Usman, a former finance minister and senator, said the move followed the Supreme Court judgment delivered on April 4, 2025, and marked the first major event at the secretariat since the ruling. She assured party members and supporters nationwide of renewed efforts to strengthen and reposition the party for national relevance, and said the focus is now on building a stronger structure capable of meeting Nigerians' expectations. However, the Julius Abure-led faction of the party accused Usman's team of forcefully taking over the secretariat. The factional publicity secretary, Obiora Ifo, alleged that early Tuesday, hoodlums aided by 8 truckloads of police barred staff from entering, removed party billboards and replaced them with those of Usman's leadership, allowing only her team access. Usman, meanwhile, described the transition as significant and said she was pleased the party had finally stabilized, promising to act at the right time for the party's benefit. Now, a woman has reportedly died from suspected poisoning in Gombe metropolis, with her co-wife arrested in connection with the incident. The tragic development has shaken residents of the Riel area of Gombe following the death of a woman identified as Fauzia, who allegedly died after consuming a substance. While the family says it has left justice in the hands of God, the police insist the matter will be pursued in accordance with the law. Trust TV's Hassan Lawan Kohli completes the report.
The incident has thrown the Riel community into shock, with neighbors describing the situation as disturbing and deeply painful. Family members of the deceased say they have handed the matter over to Allah for justice. However, speaking to Trust TV, the deceased brother, Jibril Shuaibu, dismissed allegations circulating on social media, claiming that the family attempted to bribe authorities to influence laboratory test results connected to the case.
On my thought, I think it's just that some people are trying to ignite tension between the two families. So from our own family to the family of the accused. So, and I think whomsoever is the family of the deceased, my sister is dead. Then actually, and I said I left it to Allah. So I think there is nothing that will make me go back and try to drag the attention of the security or the doctors, or maybe trying to give them some money. I had the loss already. So how could I still go back and give someone money? So which one am I going to be on? Is it the lost, the tension, the pressure, or giving out my own money again?
Reacting to the development, the Gombe State Police Command confirmed that an investigation is ongoing. The police disclosed that the suspect, identified as Zuera, has been in custody since the case was reported at the Low Cost Police Division on February 1. The command also clarified that murder is an offense against the state and cannot be resolved through personal or spiritual decisions alone.
This is a case against the state. So even the family of the victims can only stand as prosecuting witness. You see, so in this case, we don't just let it go because it involves life. So now that they said that they have left it to God, it's a good thing. But the law, what the Lord says, the laws of the land, they are clear about it. And the police are the law enforcement agents, and we'll do our best. We'll do our best to properly investigate and prosecute this case, because it will serve as deterrence to other people. But allowing it to just go like that is not possible from the police angle.
The police say they are awaiting reports from relevant agencies before charging the suspect to court, as residents of Gombe continue to call for justice in the tragic incident. Hassan Lawan Kohli, Trust TV News, Gombe.
3 men have been arraigned over the alleged torture and death of 22-year-old NSCDC volunteer Khalifa at the Fagge Divisional Office in Kano. The defendants, Zahraddin Muhammad, Abubakar Ya'u, and Abbas Sagir, appeared before Magistrate Mustafa Detti on Monday, facing charges of criminal conspiracy and culpable homicide. Family and friends of the victim filled the court premises in marching T-shirts, demanding justice for Khalifa, who was reportedly removed from detention, beaten, sprayed with tear gas, and later certified dead at Murtala Muhammad Teaching Hospital. His death sparked protests in Fagge calling for accountability. The NSCDC had since redeployed the divisional officer in charge, while all officers on duty that day were handed over to the police for investigation. The case has been adjourned to March 23rd for further hearing.
We are seeking justice in this court, and all those responsible should answer for their crimes. Justice for Khalifa, inshallah.
This is News Hour on Trust TV, coming up after the break. NEDC donates work tools to injured journalists. This and many more when we return. Do stay with us. Welcome back from the break. In case you're just joining, this is News Hour on Trust TV. Let's take a look at our top stories again. We told you that Senate reverses stance to allow e-transmission of election results, retains manual backup. And Atiku visits IBB, seeks support for ADC. Moving on to more stories, the upper chamber urged the government through the service chiefs and the Office of the National Security Advisor to ensure the safe release of all kidnapped victims. Senators also called for a comprehensive review of the Kanji Forest Reserve to rid it of criminal elements and, where necessary, establish strategic security formations. The report.
The call followed a motion of national importance by Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar of Kwara North. He noted that communities in remote forested areas remain highly vulnerable and require protection to prevent further loss of lives.
The Senate is concerned that communities in remote and forest bordering areas remain vulnerable and require enhanced protection. Early warning mechanisms and rapid response to prevent loss of lives and humanitarian crisis. Accordingly, Senate resolves to 1. Urge the federal government through the service chiefs and the Office of the National Security Advisor to intensify efforts towards the safe rescue and release of all abducted women and children from rural community.
Other senators described the incident as tragic, emphasizing that insecurity and banditry, kidnapping and abduction have become recurrent challenges requiring urgent action.
The matter of attack and killing of innocent persons in Wuru community, Kayama local government area of Kwara State, is a sad one. Mr. President, I also want to call to mind the adoption of worshippers in St. John's Church, Ojiji, Minado local government area of my constituency. And Mr. President, the killing by armed herdsmen of 4 persons and several others injured and displaced in Olapoga in Entekpa ward of Otukpo local government in recent times.
The insurgents have been in Kayenji forest for over 3 years. They came all the way from Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and settled at Kanji forest. And they have been training their personnel there. And from there, they operate and destabilize Kebbi State, Niger State, now Kwara State. From what I understand, they are even moving to Ocean State and even Oyo State.
Let me say that Islamic society or Islamic community also has a responsibility here. Those who preach what is not Islam need to be dealt with by the Muslim community. Because if we allow people who preach what is never in the books, then it means we'll continue to have this kind of situation.
The Deputy Senate President, Senator Jibrin Barrow, called on federal and state authorities to provide structured support and resources for displaced families in rural and surrounding communities.
Urge the federal and state governments to provide comprehensive support resources and well-structured programs for displaced farmers and residents of rural community and neighboring areas, aimed at restoring their livelihoods, rebuilding economic resilience, and enabling them to regain sustainable economic stability. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Senators also stressed the urgent need to fund and complete the Wawa Kaima and Kaima Kishi Road projects. They noted that poor road conditions hinder access to communities and worsen security challenges in the region.
The Chief of Defense Staff, General Olufemi Oluyede, has called for stronger support for the Nigeria Police Force and the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps to complement the armed forces, citing manpower and operational challenges. He made the call while addressing the House Committee on Defense at the commencement of the 2026 Defense Budget Session at the National Assembly. General Oluyede disclosed that the newly trained special forces have been deployed to Benue and Plateau State, while a new joint task force, Operation Savannah Shield, will soon be inaugurated to cover Kwara State and parts of Niger State. He also said Nigeria is working with allied countries to improve intelligence gathering, stressing that such cooperation would not compromise national sovereignty. Earlier, the chairman of the committee, Honorable Baba Jimmy Benson, said the budget defense session is aimed at ensuring accountability, noting that defense spending must translate into measurable security outcomes.
It's not possible for the armed forces of Nigeria to cover everywhere. So it's important for us to enhance the capacity of other security agencies, especially, I repeat, especially the police force and the civil defense, because they have more men, they have better reach. So it's important for us to ensure that these institutions are strengthened for Nigeria to be safer. As we speak, if you go by the strength of the armed forces, the total strength of the armed forces, it is not possible for us to deploy everywhere in Nigeria.
It is important to emphasize that contemporary security challenges are dynamic and cannot be addressed through kinetic approaches alone. While military operations remain essential in degrading and deterring violent threats, experience has shown that sustainable peace requires a complementary non-kinetic strategy. Issues such as poverty, youth unemployment, illiteracy, weak local governance, misinformation, community grievances, and ideological radicalization continue to fuel insecurity across different parts of the country.
Now, growing concern over the rising cases of prostitution in Katsina Metropolis has brought together key stakeholders who say the situation is no longer merely a moral issue but a social emergency threatening families and community safety. At the stakeholders' engagement convened by the Katsina State Hisba Board, participants, including estate managers, security agencies, women and human rights groups, as well as religious and community leaders, identified major causes of the problem and proposed urgent measures to curb what they describe as a disturbing trend. Trust TV's Abdullahi Yamadi completes the report.
Beneath the calm streets of Katsina Metropolis, stakeholders say a troubling reality is quietly unfolding, one they believe is eroding moral values and exposing young girls to serious risks. At the engagement, emotions ran high as speakers lamented what they described as the increasing involvement of young women in prostitution, often driven by poverty, lack of parental guidance, and weak community oversight. Some stakeholders accused certain estate managers of renting out houses to young girls without proper background checks, a practice they say is allegedly enabling immoral activities within residential neighborhoods. Following this stakeholders' engagement, we have identified the major causes of young girls and women's involvement in prostitution in Katsina State, especially within the metropolis. In my view, government support for marriage among low-income earners will help greatly, as many girls who should be married remain at home because their parents cannot afford it.
Prostitution is a complex challenge driven by economic hardship, social pressures, breakdown of family structures, gaps in education and opportunity.
Parents and guardians were urged to be more vigilant as stakeholders warned that modern societal pressures and economic hardship are pushing some young girls into risky lifestyles. According to them, the consequences extend beyond moral decline, posing serious threats to women's dignity, public health, and overall community safety. To address the challenge, participants recommended a mix of short and long-term measures, including intensified public sensitizations, stricter monitoring of rental properties, increased parental responsibility, and stronger enforcement of existing laws.
That is the issue that call our attention to conduct this kind of event, to come with the stakeholders, digest this issue, and find ways how we can come to the end of these social vices like prostitution and so other social vices of our society.
As Katsina continues to grow, stakeholders say collective action from parents, landlords, religious leaders, and security agencies is essential to protect the moral fabric of society and secure a safer future for the next generation. Abdullahi Isma Yamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, has rescued 7 young women from a suspected human trafficking ring in Kano State. The agency's Kano Zonal Command carried out a raid on a hotel in Sabon Gari, acting on credible intelligence. The victims, aged between 21 and 24, were reportedly trafficked from southern Nigeria, with Kano used as a transit point before onward movement to Baghdad in Iraq for labor exploitation. 2 suspects were arrested, while investigations revealed the operation was allegedly organized by a woman in connivance with a man still at large. The victims were expected to repay their travel expenses with profit upon arrival. The rescued women are now under NAPTIP care in Kano, receiving counseling and rehabilitation. The suspects will face prosecution once investigations are concluded. Nigeria has been ranked 142nd out of 182 countries in the 2025 Corruption Perceptions Index, CPI, scoring 26 out of 100, where 0 represents a highly corrupt country and 100 a very clean one. The ranking represents a drop of 2 places from Nigeria's position in the previous year. Beyond the numbers, however, questions are also being raised about whose interest the index truly serves. Against this backdrop, Trust TV's Noel Sampson spoke with anti-corruption advocates to gauge their reaction to the latest ranking. Take a look.
Nigeria's score of 26 out of 100 and its 142nd position in the 2025 Corruption Perceptions Index placed the country well below the global average and behind several African peers, including Botswana, Rwanda, Cape Verde, and Ghana, highlighting the level of perceived public sector corruption. Although the CPI measures perception rather than proving corruption cases, the index significantly influences how investors, lenders, and international partners view Nigeria. This perception often affects foreign investment inflows, borrowing costs, and overall economic confidence. A low ranking also puts pressure on governments at all levels to strengthen transparency, accountability, and anti-corruption institutions. Domestically, it can further erode public trust in governance, underscoring the index's impact on Nigerians' economy, governance framework, and global image. Anti-corruption advocates who spoke to Trust TV expressed mixed reactions to the latest ranking.
My reaction is that we are very deeply worried and concerned at the level of intensity of corruption or corrupt practices in Nigeria, especially at local, state, and national level. The level of corruption going on in various public institutions is worrisome.
Because I think I like to even respond as a Nigerian, not even someone who works there. I think it's disheartening. I think it's very discouraging. And like I said in there, it's important that we are able to analyze why. And like we have mentioned, there is lack of transparency, there is lack of accountability.
While supporters argue that the CPI serves as a reform-driven tool by exposing governance weakness, critics insist that it unfairly stigmatizes countries without fully reflecting local anti-corruption effects.
The Corruption Perception Index is a tool that will help governments to address gaps in terms of its corruption and corrupt practices. If you have honest and sincere government, you use the Corruption Perception Index to address some of the gaps, either in policy or in practice, or in terms of implementation of legal frameworks, to be able to address gaps. It is not an enemy tool. It is a tool that enables the state to work hard and prevent and block leakages.
I think my response is going to be show workings, all right? Just show evidence, right? If you think that it's propaganda, then show workings of what is not. Show workings of something that you have done. Show workings of the steps you've taken to ensure that processes are more transparent, procurement processes, financial processes are more transparent, and that people who have been entrusted with public funds are accountable to the people. Show workings, basically. That's going to be my response.
When you are having foreign investors come in, or when they want to know about your country, these are the parameters, the things they look out for, all these indexes, and they do matter. That is why it is also good to portray your country in good light, especially those are always portraying the country in bad light, and maybe use this index or any other report for whatever purposes. It doesn't really serve the country very well. But what is more important is to look at the issues, the recommendations of any report, of any index, and the government and those responsible should just be responsible and do the right thing.
Despite the drop in ranking, observers point to some positive developments, including improvements in asset recovery efforts and Nigeria's exit from the Financial Action Task Force grey list. They argue that with sustained political will, stronger institutions, and increased transparency, Nigeria can significantly reduce corruption to its barest minimum. Well, Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, the Northeast Development Commission (NEDC) has donated work tools worth millions of naira alongside a cash support of 5 million naira to journalists who sustained injuries in a recent car accident while inspecting the commission's project in Bauchi State. Hassan Lawan Koli completes the report.
The presentation took place at the NEDC State Office in Gombe, where the affected journalists received high-definition Canon and Sony video cameras, tripods, Samsung Galaxy smartphones, and other professional equipment either damaged or lost in the accident. In addition to the work tools, the Commission also provided a sum of 5 million naira to assist the journalists with the medical expenses and recovery. Speaking at the event, the Minister of State for Regional Development, Obama Amadu, commended the leadership of the Commission for what he described as a swift and compassionate response.
Well, what just transpired was, I would say, a humanitarian outreach in line with the humanitarian outreach of the NEDC, but somehow it arose out of the unfortunate accident that involved the journalist on the entourage of the NEDC team and case of injuries. And we thought it very wise, and I want to use this opportunity to commend the managing director and the commission for moving in proactively, getting those injured evacuated and receiving urgent medical attention, and in turn providing immediate replacement for their lost equipment. I think it is worth commending.
He added that supporting journalists in times of distress is not only a humanitarian obligation, but also an investment in democracy, assuring that the federal government remains committed to the welfare of media professionals across the country. Earlier, the Union of Journalists NUJ, Al-Hassan Yahya Abdullahi, described the intervention as commendable, particularly the speed with which it was carried out.
We all know what happened. I must appreciate them for providing equipment that is going to go a long way in aiding the support of what really transpired as the result of accident around Bauchi State. During our discussions, I made it clear to them that journalism profession is one profession that is vulnerable. I want to see how we can work together towards making sure that they support the journalists so that we'll have what we call health insurance for all practicing journalists in the Northeast. Discussions are ongoing. We hope and pray it will yield the result at the end of the day.
While assuring of continued partnership with the Commission, he appealed to the NEDC to consider enrolling journalists in the NUJ Life Premium Insurance Scheme as a sustainable welfare initiative. The chairman of the NUJ Bauchi State Council, Saidu Umar, appreciated the Commission for standing by the journalist from the scene of the accident through the period of hospitalization. He described the intervention as rare and reassuring, noting that it has further strengthened the relationship between the NEDC and the media. Hassan Lawan Koli, Trust TV News, Gombe.
The federal and Borno state government have completed the repatriation of over 3,000 Nigerian refugees from Cameroon back to Bama and Gwaza local government areas of the state. The final batch of the exercise brings to an end an 11-year stay of the refugees in the neighboring country following the Boko Haram insurgency, which claimed many lives and displaced millions. Trust TV's Beatrice Kuritsi reports.
The fourth phase of the repatriation exercise earlier this year saw more than 300 refugees return to Polka in Gwoza local government area, while this latest batch has 680 refugees who were relocated to Banki. This brings the total number of returnees to 3,122 persons, comprising 557 households successfully repatriated to Bama and Gwoza local government areas. Before their departure, the governor of Cameroon's far north region, Mijinyawa Bakari, commended Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum and urged the returnees to be productive citizens as they rebuild their lives with dignity back home.
Is aware of this departure, Nigerian refugees who lasted for almost 10 years in Minewaoka. Now they are going back to their native land. The head of the sent a package containing 4 or 5 programs to hand over to those refugees. First, the head of state said that he himself is peace beggar. Thus, they will promote peace at all levels.
On their arrival at their destinations, the returnees were profiled and provided with support, including cash assistance, clothing materials, food items, and other relief packages.
They have not been persecuted in any way. That tells a great deal on how the neighborhoodness and the brotherliness between Nigeria and Cameroon is ongoing. Let me also express the sincere appreciation of His Excellency, my Governor, the President of the Republic of Cameroon, His Excellency Paul Biya, and the wife, Madame Chartan Biya, and the Governor of the Far North, His Excellency Mijinyawa Bakari, for facilitating this process, which is a tripartite agreement between the government of Cameroon, Nigeria, and the UNHCR.
Bringing back refugees is the functions of the federal government. But however, His Excellency the Governor took it upon himself to support the federal government and to support the refugee commissions to ensure that we implement mandate. We want to thank His Excellency.
When we arrived, we were given a house, food and money. I appreciate Governor Zulum for supporting us.
While the journey to full recovery and rebuilding may take time, resilience and sustained support are expected to help the returnees build a better and more secure future. Bitrus Kuruti, Trust TV News, Maiduguri.
And now in business, the Nigeria Revenue Service has disclosed that it generated a total of 28.3 trillion naira in revenue as of December 2025. The executive director overseeing government and large taxpayers, Amina Kurawa, said the figure represents an increase of more than 30% when compared to the 25.5 trillion naira recorded in 2024. Kurawa made the disclosure while speaking at a staff retreat organized by the service, where she explained that the bulk of the revenue collected during the period was driven by the non-oil sector. Meanwhile, the Revenue Agency has fixed a collection target of 40.7 trillion naira for the 2026 fiscal year. According to the service, the ambitious target will be supported by stronger non-oil revenue contributions as well as improved collections from royalty-based income streams. The agency also projected growth in non-oil tax receipts in 2026, with company income tax, value-added tax, and a development levy expected to play leading roles in boosting government revenue. Away from Nigeria, heavy security has been deployed after sustained gunshots were heard near the central prison in Guinea's capital, Conakry, according to media reports. It was unclear who was shooting or what triggered the gunfire on Tuesday. There was no immediate comment from the authorities. A witness reported seeing several military pickup trucks carrying armed security forces and a machine gun mounted armored carrier deployed around the Central Administrative District of Kaloum. The presidential palace is also located there. A security detail made up of police officers and special forces blocked access to the area leading to the prison on Tuesday morning. It's now time for sports updates with Kabir Lawal.
26 Nigerian athletes have received a major moral boost ahead of the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, as the National Sports Commission (NSC), through its Elite and Podium Board, has disbursed training grants totaling over 200 million naira to selected top-performing athletes. The athletes were drawn from both foreign-based and home-based categories, benefiting from the grant, which will cater for their training and preparation expenses. The recipients cut across several sports, including athletics, wrestling, weightlifting, and para-sports, in line with the Commission's mandate to prioritize athletes' welfare and high-performance development. The disbursement follows the establishment of the Elite and Podium Board, created to implement a scientific and institutionalized support system aimed at sustaining peak performances by Nigerian athletes at major international competitions. The Director General of the NSC, Bukola Olapade, said the commission, under the administration of President Tinubu, was established to restore confidence and provide renewed hope for Nigerian sportsmen and women by placing strong emphasis on athletes' welfare. The chairman said the president has increased the commission's budget and given sports special financial consideration because he believes strongly in power of sport and the potential of Nigerian athletes. The commitment, he said, is already reflecting in improved performances and successes at international competitions. Olopade added that the payment of this year's athletes grant is second time in 6 months that the NSC is disbursing such payment to the country's top elite athletes. That's Sport News. I am Kabir Lawal.
And that's a wrap on News Hour. Do not forget to follow us across all social media platforms for more programs, news, and documentaries. I am Dorcas Yakubuzala. Good night.